The bait. The world had changed. Not gradually, not with the slow progression of human conflict, but with the sudden, violent rupture of an extraterrestrial invasion that had decimated civilization in mere months. Cities lay in ruins, governments had collapsed, and humanity had been reduced to scattered resistance cells, fighting a seemingly hopeless battle against a technologically superior enemy. Jack Dalton understood hopelessness. He had seen it in the eyes of soldiers during his decades with the British Special Air Service, witnessed the thin line between survival and complete surrender. But hope was something entirely different, something he had cultivated throughout his 68 years of life, and something he was not about to relinquish now. The forest around him whispered with an unnatural silence. Trees that had once teemed with life now stood as silent sentinels, their branches casting long shadows in the dying light. Jack's weathered hands gripped the walking stick, every movement calculated, every posture meticulously designed to project vulnerability. For months, he and the human resistance had been planning this moment. A single mission that could potentially turn the tide of an entire war. "They want to see an old man," Jack muttered to himself, a sardonic smile crossing his lips. "An old man is exactly what they'll get." His body, hardened by years of special forces training, was carefully concealed beneath layers of apparent frailty. The slight tremor in his hands, the deliberate stoop of his shoulders, all were part of an elaborate performance. Jack Dalton was bait, and he knew it. The alien patrols had been methodically sweeping these woods for weeks, their advanced scanning technologies searching for any signs of human resistance. They believed themselves invincible, their technological superiority rendering human opposition futile. But they had not encountered Jack Dalton. A subtle device, no larger than a watch battery, was carefully embedded in his coat's collar. Its signal would be undetectable to alien scanners, a razor-thin transmission that would guide the resistance to critical intelligence about the alien stronghold. As the first alien figures emerged from the shadows, Jack allowed himself the briefest moment of anticipation. 3 tall, gray-skinned beings moved with an unsettling precision, their dark uniforms blending seamlessly with the twilight environment. Their amber eyes, an unnatural, glowing amber, scanned the forest, searching, always searching. "Human," one of them hissed, the sound more mechanical than organic. "Identify yourself." Jack coughed, the sound deliberately weak and ragged. He raised his head slowly, his eyes carefully masking the strategic mind behind them. "Just an old man," he muttered, letting his words trail off. His hand moved imperceptibly, activating the transmitter. Lost. Vulnerable. Exactly what they expected to see. The aliens studied him with a detached curiosity, like scientists examining a specimen. Jack knew every microscopic reaction, every minute movement would be crucial. One wrong twitch, one hint of resistance, and the entire mission would collapse. A metallic device pressed against his temple, scanning for any hidden threats. Jack remained perfectly still, years of training allowing him to control every muscle, every breath. "Clean," announced the alien in a dull, echoing voice. As metallic restraints hummed and clamped around his wrists, Jack Dalton began the most dangerous mission of his life. Not with a bang, not with heroic gunfire, but with the quiet, calculated surrender of an old man who was anything but defeated. The resistance was waiting. And Jack Dalton was about to give them exactly what they needed. Infiltration. The alien transport vessel hummed with a strange, almost organic resonance. Jack Dalton sat wedged between 2 alien guards, his outward appearance a masterful performance of defeated submission. Internally, however, his mind was a precision instrument, cataloging every detail of his surroundings. The ship's interior was a marvel of biomechanical engineering. Surfaces that seemed metallic shifted subtly, almost breathing with an alien rhythm. Thin, pulsing lines of luminescent energy traced pathways along the walls, suggesting a technology far beyond human comprehension. Jack's decades of special forces training had prepared him for intelligence gathering, but nothing could have truly prepared him for this. One of the larger aliens, seemingly a commanding officer, studied Jack with intense scrutiny. Its amber eyes, more complex than human irises, contained what seemed like multiple layered pupils that shifted and realigned with each moment of observation. "You do not exhibit standard human fear responses," the alien stated, more an observation than a question. Jack allowed a slight tremor to enter his voice. "I'm too old to be afraid," he mumbled, dropping his gaze to reinforce the illusion of a broken, defeated elderly man. The alien's response was a low, guttural sound that might have been a grunt of acknowledgement or dismissal. Through the narrow viewing port, Jack watched the Earth's landscape transform. Forests gave way to rocky terrain, then to landscapes that seemed simultaneously familiar and utterly alien. Camouflaged installations emerged, structures so perfectly integrated with the surrounding environment that they would be invisible to standard human reconnaissance. His embedded transmitter continued its near-imperceptible signaling. Every coordinate, every observation was being quietly beamed back to the human resistance. Jack knew his window of opportunity was narrow. Once inside the alien stronghold, maintaining his cover would become exponentially more challenging. The ship descended toward a massive complex concealed beneath a jagged ridge. Blue-tinged lighting outlined a perimeter that spoke of military-grade defenses. This was no mere outpost, this was a primary operational center for the alien invasion force. As they landed, Jack observed the intricate choreography of alien personnel. Their movements were synchronized, almost like a complex biological machine. Soldiers, if they could be called that, moved with precision, their dark uniforms suggesting a hierarchical structure far more complex than human military organizations. Metal crunched beneath his feet as they disembarked. Jack maintained his carefully constructed persona, the frail, confused elderly man. But beneath that facade, every sense was hyper-alert, recording, analyzing. The internal corridors of the alien base were a labyrinth of curved surfaces and pulsing energy conduits. Unlike human military installations with their angular, utilitarian design, this environment felt almost alive. Walls seemed to breathe, subtle color variations suggesting some form of adaptive camouflage or communication system. Alien soldiers passed by, their gazes sliding over Jack with minimal interest. To them, he was nothing more than a captured specimen, another human to be processed and likely discarded. Their collective psychology seemed to view humanity not with hatred, but with a cold, clinical detachment, like researchers examining an inferior species. A larger alien approached, its movement suggesting a rank higher than the others. Intricate symbols along its uniform, possibly indicating rank or specialized function, caught Jack's attention. He memorized their configuration, knowing each detail could be crucial intelligence. "Quarantine sector," the commanding alien announced, its voice a synthetic blend of sounds that barely resembled human speech. Jack was guided through a series of security checkpoints. Each transition required minimal interaction, suggesting an automated system of incredible sophistication. Biometric scanners, energy field monitors, molecular composition analyzers, technology so advanced it bordered on the metaphysical. His transmitter continued its silent mission, mapping the base's internal structure with each passing moment. The human resistance would be analyzing every fragment of data, preparing for what might be their most critical counteroffensive. As they approached what appeared to be a containment area, Jack realized the true scale of the alien operation. This was more than an invasion, it was a systematic colonization, a methodical process of planetary acquisition. And he was about to become their most unexpected problem. Secrets of the Stronghold. The containment sector was unlike anything Jack Dalton had encountered in his decades of military service. Walls pulsed with a bioluminescent energy that seemed to breathe, shifting between translucent blues and deep indigos. Each surface appeared to be alive, monitoring, analyzing, communicating in a language beyond human comprehension. Jack's years of training had prepared him for interrogation, for survival in extreme conditions. But this was something entirely different. The aliens didn't view him as a prisoner in the traditional sense. He was more of a specimen, a curiosity to be studied and catalogued. The room they entered defied conventional architectural understanding. Curved surfaces merged seamlessly, with no clear distinction between walls, floor, and ceiling. Holographic interfaces flickered in and out of existence, displaying complex data streams that Jack could only partially interpret. A device unlike any human technology was positioned at the center of the room. It resembled a combination of medical scanner and communication hub, with tendrils of energy reaching out like quantum-level tentacles. Jack recognized it as something far beyond human scientific understanding, a piece of technology so advanced it bordered on the metaphysical. Initial assessment, one of the aliens announced, its voice a synthetic blend of frequencies that seemed to bypass traditional audio perception. Another alien approached, its movements calculating and precise. Metallic probes extended from its hand, each tip glowing with an unnatural energy. Jack knew this was the moment of truth. Every muscle in his body remained coiled, ready to react, while maintaining the illusion of a harmless, defeated old man. The probes began their examination, passing over his body in intricate patterns. Jack felt a strange tingling sensation, not painful, but invasive. Years of specialized training had prepared him for this moment. Micro-movements, barely perceptible, allowed him to subtly interfere with their scanning process without revealing his true capabilities. Anomalous readings detected, the alien announced, its amber eyes narrowing. Jack's heart rate remained controlled. He had anticipated this moment. The resistance had prepared him with specialized shielding, microscopic technology woven into the very fabric of his clothing that would create just enough interference to raise questions without triggering immediate alarm. The aliens communicated in a language of complex electromagnetic pulses and chemical signals. To an outside observer, it would appear as nothing more than a series of subtle movements and near imperceptible exchanges. But Jack had been studying their communication patterns, picking up fragments of their intricate language. Subject demonstrates unusual cellular resilience, one alien noted, its probe continuing its examination. What they didn't know was that Jack Dalton was no ordinary prisoner. His body was a testament to decades of special forces training, genetic modifications developed during his most classified missions, and a lifetime of preparing for the unexpected. The Resistance had chosen him specifically. At 68, he was more than just an old soldier. He was a living weapon, carefully crafted to infiltrate the most secure alien installations. Every scar, every seemingly random genetic variation was a calculated piece of a complex puzzle. As the examination continued, Jack allowed himself the briefest moment of satisfaction. Each second he remained in their facility was another second of critical intelligence gathering. The transmitter embedded in his collar continued its silent mission, mapping the base's internal structure with microscopic precision. The aliens moved with an efficiency that spoke of a collective consciousness. Unlike human military structures with their hierarchical command systems, this felt more like a single, massive organism. Each alien seemed to be both an individual and part of a greater collective intelligence. Jack caught glimpses of other containment chambers. Shadows of what might have been human prisoners, or something else entirely, moved in the peripheral vision. The scale of the alien operation was becoming terrifyingly clear. This was not just an invasion. It was a systematic process of planetary colonization. A sudden energy shift caught his attention. Something was changing in the room's environmental configuration. The walls pulsed with increased intensity, and the holographic interfaces began displaying a series of complex geometric patterns. They were preparing something. And Jack Dalton was about to find out exactly what. The Resistance's gambit. Deep beneath the alien stronghold, in a hidden command center hundreds of miles from Jack Dalton's current location, the human resistance was mobilizing. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the lead strategist who had meticulously planned this operation, hunched over a holographic display that flickered with real-time data from Jack's embedded transmitter. "He's in," she whispered, her voice a mixture of hope and tension. The Resistance had been reduced to scattered cells, survivors who had escaped the initial alien invasion. Governments had fallen, major cities had been reduced to ruins, and humanity teetered on the brink of extinction. But they had not surrendered. And Jack Dalton was their most critical asset. Major Michael Chen, a former Special Forces commander, studied the intricate map of alien movements. "We've got a 72-hour window," he announced, tracing potential infiltration routes. "Jack's transmissions are giving us more intel than we've gathered in the past 6 months." The command center was a marvel of improvised technology. Salvaged equipment from military bases, hacked communication systems, and custom-built hardware created a nerve center of human resistance. Each console told a story of survival, of humanity's desperate fight against an overwhelming technological superior. Back in the alien stronghold, Jack was experiencing the true depth of their technological capabilities. The examination had evolved into something more complex. The aliens were not merely studying him, they were attempting to understand him. Holographic interfaces surrounded him, displaying what appeared to be genetic maps, physiological scans, and complex data streams that shifted in patterns too rapid for human perception. Jack recognized this as more than just a medical examination. It was a comprehensive analysis of human potential. Cellular adaptation markers, one alien noted, its voice a synthetic blend of frequencies. Unusual resilience detected. What they didn't realize was that Jack was not just passively experiencing this examination. Every moment was a carefully calculated intelligence-gathering operation. His years in the SAS had trained him to absorb information under the most extreme circumstances. The transmitter in his collar continued its silent mission, mapping the base's internal structure with microscopic precision. Each data point was a potential weakness, a potential avenue for human counterattack. Miles away, in the Resistance Command Center, Dr. Rodriguez was decoding the transmitted information. "Look at this," she said, highlighting a series of energy conduit patterns. "These aren't just power lines. They're some kind of neural network. The entire base might function like a single, massive organic computer." Major Chen leaned in, his military mind already calculating potential strategic implications. "If we can introduce a disruption in these conduits, we might be able to create a systemic failure." The alien stronghold was more than just a military installation. It was a living, breathing ecosystem of technology and biological integration. Walls seemed to breathe, energy pathways pulsed like veins, and every surface suggested a level of technological sophistication that defied human understanding. Jack felt the subtle shift in the room's environment. The aliens were preparing something. The holographic interfaces began displaying a series of increasingly complex geometric patterns, suggesting some form of advanced communication or data processing. A new alien entered the examination chamber. Its movements were different, more deliberate, suggesting a higher rank or specialized function. Intricate symbols along its uniform indicated a role beyond standard military hierarchy. "Genetic potential assessment," it announced, its voice a computational blend of sounds. Jack knew this was a critical moment. Everything he had trained for, everything the Resistance had prepared him for, was about to be put to the ultimate test. The Resistance was waiting. Humanity's survival hung in the balance. And Jack Dalton was their silent, unassuming weapon. Turning the tide. The moment suspended between calculation and action. Jack Dalton had spent a lifetime preparing for impossible missions, but nothing compared to the complexity of his current situation. The alien examination chamber pulsed with an otherworldly energy, holographic interfaces dancing with information beyond human comprehension. The high-ranking alien that had just entered was different. Its movements suggested a level of intelligence that transcended mere military hierarchy. Intricate biomechanical augmentations were visible beneath its skin, not implants, but something more integrated, more fundamental. "Genetic potential assessment requires complete neural mapping," the alien announced, its voice a computational symphony of frequencies. Jack knew this was the critical moment. His entire mission, months of preparation, years of specialized training, had led to these precise seconds. The resistance was listening, waiting, their entire survival hanging on his next move. The neural mapping device extended tendrils of luminescent energy. Jack's decades of special forces conditioning kicked in. Micro-movements, almost imperceptible, began to interfere with their scanning process. Years of psychological training allowed him to create just enough mental interference to muddy their readings. In the Resistance Command Center, Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched the live data stream with intense concentration. "He's creating cognitive noise," she muttered to Major Chen. "Just enough to make their scans unreliable." The alien's amber eyes narrowed. Something was unexpected. Jack's transmitter continued its silent mission, mapping critical infrastructure. But it was doing more than just gathering intelligence. The device, a marvel of human resistance engineering, was actually beginning to introduce a subtle virus into the alien system. Anomalous neural patterns detected, the alien announced, its voice losing some of its previous computational precision. What the aliens didn't understand was that Jack Dalton was more than just an old man. He was a carefully designed weapon. Genetic modifications developed in the most classified special forces programs, psychological conditioning that allowed him to control every physiological response, a lifetime of training compressed into this single moment. The Resistance had chosen him specifically. At 68, he represented something the aliens couldn't comprehend: human adaptability, resilience, the ability to turn seemingly impossible situations into opportunities. The examination chamber began to destabilize. Holographic interfaces flickered, energy conduits pulsed erratically. Jack's embedded technology was doing more than gathering intelligence, it was systematically introducing chaos into their most secure system. Systemic interference detected, another alien announced, its voice now clearly showing signs of confusion. Miles away, in the hidden Resistance Command Center, Major Chen began coordinating the next phase of their operation. "Prepare the strike teams," he ordered. "Jack's about to create our window." The alien stronghold was a marvel of technological integration, which made it vulnerable. Complex systems, when disrupted at the right points, could collapse faster than simple mechanical structures. And Jack Dalton was an expert at finding those critical points. A massive energy surge began to build. The walls of the examination chamber started to pulse with an increasingly erratic rhythm. The aliens' collective consciousness, their greatest strength, was becoming their greatest weakness. Jack allowed himself the briefest moment of satisfaction. Not a smile, not a change in his carefully maintained facade of a defeated old man. Just an internal acknowledgement of a mission perfectly executed. The Resistance had spent months preparing for this moment. Every piece of intelligence, every carefully planted technology, every calculated risk was about to pay off. As the alien stronghold began to destabilize, Jack Dalton remained perfectly still. To the aliens, he was still just an old man. A harmless human specimen. They had no idea what was about to hit them. The first wave of human counterattack was moments away. And humanity was about to fight back.